So in the previous video, we covered how to create a very simple blog layout using CSS Flex. In this particular video, we're going to replicate the same layout design, but this time around we're going to be using CSS Grid. So let's get started. All right, so in here we're going to create a bunch of files, index.html. We're going to create main.css. We are also going to create a directory, assets, with the subdirectory of images. Let's open up our Figma so that we can export some of those image files. Alright, so here we have our simple blog layout. Let us export these images straight to the desktop. We'll locate the CSS Grid simple blog layout, assets, images, and let us save this. So we're going to first start by putting in this text on our page. So we're going to move down to the HTML file. Let's zoom in to make sure you can see this clearly. Alright, so CSS Grid simple blog layouts. We're going to start off with our section. And let's have our style in here for the meantime. Alright, so we're going to make sure that we give our section a width of 80% and margin 0 also to align this properly to the center. We're also going to bring in our fonts. Here's this plugin I would love to show you. I'm simply going to install the Google font plugin. I'm simply going to go into my main.css file and I'm going to search for Google fonts, imports. And here I'm going to type the name of our font, which is Inter, and now we have that font imported automatically. Alright, so let's cut this font for the meantime, and let's have it in here. Remember to put the quotes in between the link, right, for the URL. So now that we have this section, let us put in our text inside this div. Basically, that is H1. We are simply going to align this to center by using a style, and we'll say text align center. Of course, we can move this into the style area. We can definitely move this in here. Let's say H1. Make sure we have it in the center. And yeah, let's put in the text here by simply copying the item. Remember, you can pick it down from inspect and select the item right here by just clicking on this to copy. Alright, so now we have the H1 text. So I'm going to open this up in my browser. Alright, so right here we have my simple blog. And let us set the universal selector, padding 0, margin 0, box sizing, border box, and let's set the default font family, Inter. Well, we can definitely do that inside the body. That works as well. So if we refresh, so we have the fonts. Alright, so let us pick the property of the H1 item. So I'm simply going to pick it from here and paste. Right. So sorry, pasted that into the wrong place. So inside H1. Good. Okay, so now that we have this item right here, the next thing we're going to do is to create layouts, basically using grid. So we're going to create this container and use the CSS grid to ensure that we have this exact layout. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a class of grid container. Within our HTML file as well. Of course, we can have this inside this div. So grid container. Okay, and within the container we're going to have children, right? So we're going to have a different div, grid child, right? That is just the name we choose to call it right here. And within the grid child we'll have an image source. So I'm going to call this image image 1. And for the first image, we're simply going to call in assets, image, and image 1, right? Then we have the P tag to put in the paragraph. So let's pick up that paragraph. Basically, we have the same paragraphs, for all the items. So I can just easily, paste that in here. So now, next we can just, duplicate this 3, 4, and change the images as well. Image 3, image 4, image 2, right? Let's change that here too. So we have 3, right? And we also have 4. All right. So now we have the we basically have the grid child and the grid container. So let's continue with the styling. Now we have grid container, and we're also going to have the grid child. Nice. Within the grid container, we're simply going to display this section to grid. We're simply going to display this container as a grid container. Then we're going to set a gap. Our gap is basically 31 pixels, and we can verify that clicking on this. So it's 39, right? That is 39 pixels. Okay, so next we're going to have a grid template columns. Of course, we can have one F arrow, one F arrow, which means we're splitting this item into 2 fractional parts. And a quick example, you see what we have right here: one F arrow, one F arrow, right? So if you add an extra item, it means you're going to split this into 3 fractional parts, as you can see. But that is not what we want. But instead, we're just going to use a very simple function that will make this even more responsive. So we're going to have the repeat, and we'll use auto fix min max. In here, we're going to set the base. The base size of this specific item, as you can see here, is 481 pixel. So we're going to have 481 pixel and 1 F arrow. So yeah, so basically this is going to be the base. Once it gets to this size, it's going to quickly move the next item down to the bottom, right? And yeah, so we have our grid, we have the gap. The gap is a shorthand for working with column gap and row gap. So if you have different gap sizes, you can use column gap separately from the row gap, right? Yeah, so but for now we are working with the gap only. And yeah, we also have properties like place item center and the align item center, so you can play around with those properties. Documentation, I'll drop a link to the MDN documentation for CSS grid. Let's go ahead and set the child, right? So for the child, basically we have background color. So let's just pick this. We're going to pick this item, and remember from the last implementation, we also set the position to relative, because we want to have the position for the image and text be absolute, so that we can set the positions ourselves. So this is what we have, basically the width and the height. So the next thing we might want to do right now is to set the image and also the paragraph, right? All right, so we can set a position of the absolutes. Always remember, that we need to set the top. So I'm going to use 0 pixels, and the left 0 pixels, and I want to also set the object fits to cover. All right. So this is not compulsory. I just love to have it, so that the width would always, in case you have like a lesser a picture with a lesser size, right? So it can always stretch and fill the container. So that's why I'm having this here. Basically, it's not needed for this specific implementation, but it's good to understand why I have it right here. Okay, so for the paragraph, we are still going to pick some of the properties we have here. So let's pick some of those properties. I'm going to copy this. Let's take this. Yeah, so I will also take the bottom. Remember that we measured this to 70 pixels, as you can see. So let's paste in this first. We don't necessarily need the font family because we have it declared at the top, but I'm going to leave it here. Then we're also going to set the position to absolute, and we are going to set the bottom to 70 pixels. So you will discover that something would go wrong here, because it's extremely close, right? So what we can use to fix this, of course, is basically set margin, and Yeah, we can just set the margin to text px, and yeah, so now we have something like this. Okay, so we've been able to set the margin, but we don't want the margin to affect the top and bottom, right? So we can leave it oh sorry, so we can leave it this way, right? Okay, so this is what we want, and this is fine. Let's also add space between the text. So I'm simply going to check this out and work with the space. I have here 111 pixels. So basically we can apply that to the H1, right? Or we can also apply it to the grid container. It's up to you. Let's apply that to the grid container. That should be margin top 111 pixel, 111 pixels. Let us go back to our web page. Let's refresh. So now you see we have that space implemented right here. All right, so basically if we decide to this is not properly aligned to the center, by the way, so yeah, we can okay, so simply place item center. Let us inspect this. Okay, so all right, so you see this is actually responsive. Okay, on mobile. This is what we have on web. All right, so yeah, go ahead and play around with this. The GitHub repository will be shared with you as well. Let us quickly move this into our CSS file so we can have a clean implementation right here. So I'm simply going to cut this, paste it inside the main.css file. Let us save that. Let us also remember to take this off. Okay, and finally we need to bring in the link. Alright, so main.css and ensure that we have style sheets right here. Oh, beautiful. So now this works perfectly. Next, we're going to push this to GitHub and share this with you. I hope you understood what we have done so far. Ensure you're part of the Q&A session so we can answer a couple of questions that you have. Next, we'll be talking about positioning, and we'll explain a couple of positionings in details. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, kindly subscribe and share the video so we can also reach other newbies with this simple content. So thanks for watching. Until next time.